Yeah.
What up?
Hot in
Hey.
the attics. Hello.
Pretty hot in
Hello.
these attics.
Wow.
And Frank.
Okay. Restart the podcast. Restart the podcast. Jesus Christ.
It was cold. I think it was really cold in there, in that particular attic. Right?
Why?
Wasn't it? I always imagined that it was winter time. For Anne Frank, always.
A winter of the soul.
All of World War II was just the winter constantly.
It was all winter. It was a mini ice age.
Yeah, slush.
Yes.
Only slush. Only brown slush for everybody.
Anyway, everyone, hey, welcome to Whoa, the motherfucking Spine Crackers podcast now.
Yeah. What color is everyone's energy today?
What color is my energy today? My energy
Well,
today...
it's green because we're both wearing green shirts.
That's
here.
true. Me and Paul are both wearing green shirts, so I guess green.
What does that mean? You dumb
Gabe
hippie
should know
idiots.
because of magic cards. What does green mean in magic cards?
It's not about it. It's not. Well, it's in Magic. Green is normally like the, it's
forest.
Earthy.
It's earth and nature and like using. It's usually a lot of big, powerful, expensive creatures, and then like ways of trying to cheat them out early before you should be able to, and stuff like that.
Isn't green like kind of the Hufflepuff of magic?
No, dude.
Oh.
That
We talked
doesn't
about this,
even.
like 3 years ago. I can't remember.
I mean,
Well, does the sorting hat apply to magic
I
when
know,
it's
it's
literally
like-
called magic?
No, Gabe, you and I had this conversation when I
yeah,
visited you.
you're right. I do.
And you were
remember having
like,
this
I think
conversation,
that magic has a better sorting hat system than Harry Potter.
Oh,
'cause
there's no
like
question
two
about
extra.
that.
There's two extra whatever
Yeah, there's
categories.
5 in Magic.
5.
I mean,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. So you did talk about this.
We did.
Yeah, it was like 3 years ago.
What is it? Green, blue, red, white, and black.
Yeah.
So
I was
But they don't-
I was black and green.
black and green, cool. What's
Yeah.
that? I forget what the combos are called. I haven't actually played Magic in a while.
I mean, it's also changed since
Like
I
a
played
lot.
it. Like even the whole entire like existential strategy or whatever of you choosing, and then the combos themselves have like guild names. I don't
Yes,
I don't know.
Right.
I don't
do,
know.
They do now.
I played it in the fucking 90s, literally.
Wow.
I was a child. I was playing it, and then I played it a little bit in the 2000s. I stopped.
That's tight. I actually
Well,
I
that-
only ever played Prime, honestly. It's fucking too expensive, dude. It's crazy how expensive that
Yeah,
shit is.
true that.
You gotta like
true that.
buy cards
To make
you have
like
to buy new
one
packs.
decent, like, yeah, but that's if you want to actually play, like, not even competitively, but just have like a deck that is playable, even against like a casual person at like a comic shop or something. It's like it's pointless to buy packs. You just have to buy all the individual cards for a deck, and it's like to make like a deck. It's like fucking $600 or some shit probably.
That's crazy.
Maybe it's not
insane.
quite that expensive, but it's a lot of money because you need 4 copies of every card or 2 at least or whatever. So anyway, that's,
Anyway, though,
if there's any
at
Magic
the end of the-
Gathering podcasts,
There's too
But
many
also,
of
I
those.
wanted to say at the end of the podcast, we always sort the characters of the book into Harry Potter houses. So
yes,
stick around.
Stick around for
Yeah.
that. That's our end of the show segment. We just read another book where we get to talk about Harry Potter after taking our medicine and eating our vegetables and reading a real book.
Yes, which is how we regard everything we've encountered the whole time. It's like, fuck, dude.
God, why? We got to read another fucking book. I just want to talk about Harry Potter.
How is this
Yeah.
about? What do we would Dobby? I just all I care about. Fucking Hagrid.
Every
and what
book, every book other than Harry Potter is just cauliflower. Just have to scarf it down with sweet potato fries.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so we
Right.
can get to the Ben and Jerry's ice cream of the
Fuck
Harry
yeah.
Potter segment.
Yeah.
Yes.
The chunky monkey of the Weasley twins or whatever.
Chunky monkey.
So yeah, I'm Gabe, and that's my name.
I'm
on
Matt.
The show.
I'm Paul.
And yeah, this is the Spinecrackers podcast where we talk about a book every episode.
Yeah. This is your book.
This is my book. Yeah, this we're talking
Gabe.
about this evening. It is David Diop's, who is a French/Senegalese author. His 2020 novel, At Night All Blood is Black, which won recently the 2021 International Booker Prize, which I didn't know much about the Booker Prize in general. I knew it was a prestigious literary award, but I kind of thought it was always international. I didn't know that there was like 2 categories like that.
To be fair, yeah, it's like that. What other books? The Man Booker Prize. Is that what it's fully called?
I think so, yeah.
And then
They might have dropped that because it's just the Booker Prize. It's the Booker Prizes now.
Sure. And then the Prix de Goncourt. I thought that was also won by this book. Is that not true? Did I just make that up because it's French?
No, that's right. But I don't know much about that. It's a French. I know it's a French literary award.
I know. That's it.
Yeah. But yes, so it's a relatively highly decorated novel from 2020, and I picked it to read.
Just
What made you pick it?
Yeah.
Well, a couple things.
I picked it to read. For this podcast we're doing.
Motherfuckers. Yeah. Can elaborate.
I mean, a couple things. One, probably like the main reason was I checked earlier today. This is only going to be like the 4th book that we've read on the show that was published like after 2000. Basically, we skew pretty heavily towards not like classics or super old shit, but you know,
The recent past.
the recent past, the 1900s. So I was going through. There's really only like a few. It was like
What it would be like Luster Mezzanine.
The Mezzanine was late 90s, I think.
Oh yeah, it was 80s.
It might even been 89. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So yeah, Luster. I think Killing Commendatore.
The band that you both like, that guy.
We didn't do the show. We didn't do an episode.
Oh
on that.
shit!
That was
Wow.
before the show. Yeah. John Darnielle's
I'm all
book.
fucked up.
That was before we started doing the show. So yeah, and then
Hwelbeck?
Hwelbeck, yep. I think there was one more, but I forget.
It's gonna bug me.
The point being, few.
Yeah, the point being not a large number. And so I wanted to, try to get some more recent shit up in here. So I kind of went poking around for something that I thought might work well for the show and we might enjoy or whatever, or that I just wanted to read. And I saw that this one, I think I saw some reviews on YouTube, and it's sort of got like a minor level of hype around it, obviously, like winning these awards and so on and so forth. And I thought, yeah, sure, let's try that one. And it looked interesting, and the title was catchy. I was ear catchy.
True.
And ear catching, I guess. And so
mine's ear.
So that's it. Those are there's no personal deep story or anything, but I wanted to get a new book. This one looked cool and had a good title and a cool cover. You can't see it, but the cover's I like a lot, actually.
Oh, that is cool. I kind of wish I bought this one physically. I might
Yeah.
do that.
Anyway, so that's why. It's a very short book. It's 140 pages or something.
Yeah, it does fall into, like you were saying, almost, I don't know what a novella is officially, but it feels like a little more like that.
We've talked about this before on the show. like where the line is exactly, and I'm sure there is some technical one, but I don't know what it is.
But it feels like a short novel to me.
Ooh, it feels like a short novel to you, not a novella.
Oh. I'm going to look it up right now.
It's definitely short, whatever you want to say about it. You know, short, and it flies by. There's a lot of... It's broken up into a bunch of chapters and a lot of... You know, it goes by real fast.
How about if a book is French and it's short, it can be novella because of Nutella?
Is Nutella even French?
I don't think it is.
Oh my god! I think I learned about it in French class.
Okay, here's the really
We're on some
helpful.
shit, dude.
Here's a really helpful definition at the
Oh
Oxford.
my god! It's Italian.
Yeah,
Nutella's Italian. Fuck.
It's Nutalian.
yeah. I'm about to tell you something, and it's Italian. Novella means a short novel or a long story. Thanks a lot.
That's the worst definition I've ever heard in my life.
So basically, nobody knows.
Jesus, that's entirely unhelpful.
It's like the definition of porn by that one judge. I know it when I see it. Yeah.
I feel like there's a gray zone. There's like obviously anything under like 120 pages, I would say is like a novella. And then anything like for sure, that's like a hard cutoff. And then like anything over like 180 or 170 is obviously a novel. And then there's like this, to reference the book, there's like this no man's land in the middle where it can kind of go either way.
Right.
I
It's
think
like
from now on, I'm gonna do Mama Bear, Papa Bear, Baby Bear.
Yeah.
This feels like Teenage Bear. So there's a fourth one in there.
Teen
So
Bear.
is that Mama Bear basically in the Goldilocks metric?
No, I'm saying there's a new category. It's Baby Bear, Teenage Bear. Actually, Mama Bear
Growing
doesn't
boy
make
bear?
sense. Growing boy, yeah. Growing boy, yeah, that's it.
Mama Bear doesn't make sense?
Well, why is the female gender lesser?
Well, it's not. Listen, we don't have to get political.
We're all,
It's just Goldilocks,
We're
dude. I don't know what to
trying
tell
to
you.
Anyway, yeah, I don't want this podcast to get political at all. So this book is about colonized black soldiers in World War
Yeah.
But yes, that is actually what the book's about. It follows
Yes.
a Senegalese soldier in the French army during World War One named Alpha Ndiaye. That's how I would pronounce it. It sort of tells the story of, this is, obviously all of our podcasts are full of spoilers, but and this is not really a spoiler. It happens like on the first fucking page. But he witnesses his friend Mademba Diop, who's a childhood friend.
Already ears pricked just because of the surname being the same as the author's.
Right, yeah. And so he witnesses Mademba very brutally die on the battlefield in World War One. It's not exactly clear where they are, like geographically, for most of the fighting. Whether they're in France, I don't know enough about World War One to say where it plausibly could have been, like where France.
I think that they
fought.
say it was they were in France.
Okay, so, yeah, I think that makes sense.
I remember that, but I might be wrong.
So we'll just say they're in France. If you can find that, that'd be great, Paul, because I wasn't sure. So he witnesses Mademba die very brutally on the battlefield, be disemboweled by a bayonet, basically. And it takes him, hours to die, basically. And the whole time he's begging Alpha to just put him out of his misery and kill him. And Alpha cannot bring himself to do it. And then Mademba ultimately dies. And the rest of the novel is sort of about Alpha dealing with that experience and the war in general, and sort of how managing his guilt and trauma from this moment, and he takes it in some weird directions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're just at the infamous Western Front
Okay,
for this,
yeah.
which is like, a 500-mile span of territory. I don't know exactly where they could be. But yeah, seems to be primarily German aggression.
The Maginot Line, is that a thing?
That's definitely a thing.
Is that
and
World War I?
Yes.
I think so, right?
Battle of Verdun. These are things that I'm reading. Man,
Just
I mean,
naming
American
things
history
about-
really did a disservice to us.
I don't know fucking anything about World War One, basically.
Me either.
It was just, yeah.
Archduke
I-
Franz Ferdinand. That's what I know.
Yeah, and a bunch
know
of
that
people pulling in their a bunch of low key ally ships coming into play when it came to who was against who,
Right.
and a bunch of favors being called in a domino kind of effect.
Yes.
It's
And I know that,
basically-
anecdotally, the British and a lot of people that joined the war thought it was going to be like a game of racquetball, basically. They had no idea that the horrors they were about to face
Right.
with gassing
Yeah.
and trenches.
Well, I think it's significant. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Oh no, and this novel is definitely reckoning way more with this just weird new mode of brutality and violence.
Yes. Yes.
That seems to be its primary focus is there is I really liked the way this thing just shifted registers in a sequence that felt really effectively off-putting and putting you on your back feet, where yeah, I don't know, so it's the No Man's Land, and this just kind of the trench warfare shit is the catalyst setting for what I would regard as probably the more important back half.
Yeah. So, the book it's not formally split in two in any way, Correction was last week, but there are basically two kind of distinct, arguably three, because there's a long section where they talk about the Alpha and Mademba's childhood back in Senegal, a couple long chapters about that. But in the real time of the novel, there's basically two. We're very serious literary analysts.
So the horrors of war.
Where the first half is about Alpha's experiences on the front and him dealing with what he sees and with Mademba's death. And what he starts doing is sort of either staying on the field of battle after the whistle's been blown, essentially, which I did not know that's how they did it in World War One. Just
Yeah.
Hey, whistled our. It's like a fucking gym teacher. Whistle
weird
and then
how-
run out and then whistle and come back.
It's weird how
They
wars
had
have
not-
evolved like that, though. Because, when you think back to the Revolutionary War, it was even more of a gym class thing. It was we're going to stand in freaking blocks of humans, and it's our turn to shoot, and then next
Right.
it'll be your turn to shoot. It's like dodgeball.
Well, and I think
But
you're
part
go ahead,
part
man,
of the just part of the victory was not doing that on the American side,
right. Just saying fuck it,
Yeah, just guerrilla style.
fuck it. We're gonna go ham. And I think you're right earlier, Matt, pointing out the sort of reckoning with the new sort of form of warfare, because of course World War One is basically what kicked off modernism as a trend in literature, or as an era. We talked a little bit about in the Virginia Woolf episode, where people are sort of, the culture was just sort of trying to reckon with what the fuck just happened.
Because Paul's right. It even though the American Revolution, so much longer ago, kind of was already should have been, one of many kicks in the face that make people realize that you can't just have a gentleman's, I don't know, war.
Right.
But I think you're right that there was still just this kind of lingering notion of warfare done proper
Right.
that still like necessitated the whole wave structure. And yeah, the fucking dodgeball gym class, like just like, okay, everyone take your shot, and now we're gonna stand still and wait, and that's the nice thing to do, and just
I'm
like
on the red team and you're on the blue team.
yes, red versus blue, Rooster Teeth, and
Yes, shout out Rooster Teeth. That is deep, dude.
just and that leading to some of the the highest body count until that point ever seen.
By
basically,
a lot, yeah. And I think it's really one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this book is that this book is still sort of illustrating that there are aspects of World War I that we have not yet fully grappled with even today, and specifically in this book, which is, I would say, not like a foregrounded topic, but something that is baked into the story and is unavoidable. The use of colonial soldiers, colonized soldiers by the combatants in World War II. In this case, it's France who had colonized Senegal using Senegalese troops. And that's something that I didn't really know happened. And I think that sort of the way he brings it out is, subtle. Like I said, it's not like this, it's not a big statement per se about that happening, but it's an unavoidable sort of component of the story. And I just thought it was really interesting because I didn't know, and the way he describes kind of the rationale or the motivation for at least on the battlefield for them doing that was really dark, which is that they would give these men from Africa, these soldiers from Africa, like machetes along with their guns to and tell them to yell and scream to play up the savage, scary,
cannibal
heart of Africa, cannibals,
Africa,
to try to intimidate or scare the other side, and apparently it was pretty effective actually, in terms of scaring the Germans in this context.
Yeah, they were. That was their specific strategic role. Although the other benefits that were potentially weighed or dangled in front of them, it's unclear to me what those might be, or if there was even a choice really, or you were just kind of conscripted. I
Right.
That's something that again I knew there were black soldiers, and they get brought up a lot of the time in just sort of references to the hypocrisy and the fact of the continuing inequality,
Right.
just sort of lingering in spite of kind of one of supposedly the greatest and most fundamental acts of patriotism being rendered and still nothing.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that was one thing that was not clear to me, and I'm sure if I just did some more research, it would become clear. But even going in the flashback scenes when we're back in Senegal talking about between Alpha and Mademba before they go to the war, yeah, like you said, Matt, it's not clear if they kind of I'm assuming they were all forcefully brought and conscripted.
No, you know what? Actually,
No.
I think they weren't. I think it was Mademba who wanted
that's
to the
right.
most,
That's right.
and
That's
it was literally I think for the pensions, which in
Yes.
Senegal would have gone a much longer route,
I
way.
think it was
sort
for
of-
citizenship. They wanted citizenship in France.
I think that was part of it also, yeah. I had forgotten about that scene, but there's a scene, yeah, where Mademba initially is turned away because he's too scrawny and little, right? And then he,
Yeah.
basically forces them to let him into the army. Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right.
But the insinuation there being that Mademba is always behaving in reaction to Alpha, and Alpha ends up feeling again. The latter half of the book has them almost merging as spirits, and so in the first half, you just see more or less they're my more than brother,
Right.
is the term for whatever their relationship is, and Mademba is reacting almost constantly to Alpha, who sort of with such ease and just naturalness kind of gets a lot of the things that Mademba is jealous about and wishes he could. But
he's kind of like an athlete. He gets the girl that Mademba likes.
Yeah.
I wonder if in
Big
a
deal.
Jordan Peterson cringe way, the name Alpha is not accidental.
I don't think it is.
Actually, I don't think it is either. I thought it was very intentional, and almost in like a darkly humorous intent.
Yes.
Yeah, it seemed almost like a joke for sure.
Because there's some absurd passages where Alpha's just like, I am handsome. I have massive succulent pecs.
Yes.
I have amazing thighs. Everyone that looks at me knows that I'm handsome.
His smile is apparently really awesome.
Yeah.
My dazzling smile. Every woman looks at the middle of my body.
It's amazing how white my teeth are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to go back for a second about what you were saying about, or what we were just talking about, how they both end up joining the army, not for like the typical kind of sappy, like I love my country type ways that you see in a lot of, at least movies. Like I'm thinking of Platoon. It's like the black characters in that movie seem to just be like, at least from what I remember, they're just like they're like patriotic, and they love their country regardless of the racism that they are succumbed to. But I thought that it was very smart to ground the reasoning for joining the army in a very personal, kind of selfish, realistic way of just like, I want citizenship, I want a pension,
Right.
so I'm going to join for that reason. And I'm mostly because like I know someone, I'm not going to name them, who basically joined the army for the same way and fought in Afghanistan and absolutely went crazy and like has horrible PTSD.
Yeah.
He's like a raging alcoholic. His wife left him. He's like alienated. Like, and I could see that kind of realistic descent into madness with Alpha. I mean, maybe not totally realistic. He kind of becomes I don't know if you guys think this, but a little bit of a psychopath. At least tendencies.
Yeah.
It definitely gets weird. Although I don't have PTSD. Obviously, I've never been in war, so I don't know. I just don't really know enough about it to comment on how like realistic it is, the portrayal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it felt very realistic to me. I'll say that.
Well, but it's funny that you say the word like realistic when the novel, in order to like create a mirror of a like incredibly tragically real event in human history, as mirrored in, I didn't check, but like a Senegalese folktale, like everything gets completely mirrored into a pre-existing old Senegalese folktale that they knew even before they left as children.
Are you talking about the lion and the prince?
The Lion Sorcerer and the princess, the fickle princess and all that. Right. And like, everyone gets a role in that folktale. So I think that's the 2-act structure is like, you're right. There's like kind of 3, but like all the things that occur find their mirror in a fictional tale, but it's just made real through the vehicle of like World War One.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I really liked about this book was it does, you talking earlier a little bit, Matt, about the tone and sort of the tonality of the book and how it shifts from this kind of like, there's these sort of like folkloric aspects. The writing, I would argue, is very like rhythmic and almost like, it's because there's one specific phrase that gets repeated over and over, like damn near on every page. Because it's Alpha narrating, and he just intersperses his narration with the phrase "God's truth," like just like trying to emphasize how real and true that everything is, which I think is an interesting tactic that Diop uses in the writing, and we can probably talk more about it. But just in general, like the whole feel of the book, specifically the war scenes at the beginning, but also in the end, which gets very strange. It does for me what like the best sort of war media does, like war films and other novels and so on, which is ride that line between like insanely brutal and, you know, quote unquote gritty, a term that I hate, realism about war with this sort of surreal, like bizarre, deeply unreal quality that it inevitably has. You know, like your Apocalypse Nows, or, you know, the Burmese Harp, or like or like Come and See, which is one of my other favorite war films.
Holy shit! Yeah.
You know, all of those films do that so well, where it's so real that it starts to tip into the unreal, you know, and there's all these weird, you know, details where, for example, like Alpha's fellow soldiers, after a time, get superstitious about him because, you know, what he's doing to sort of avenge Mademba or whatever is he basically sneaks across enemy lines at night and kidnaps an enemy soldier and tortures them and then cuts off their hand and brings it back to his camp. And they start to view him as almost this supernatural figure, like this demon or this cursed, like...
What do they call him? They call him what is it, like a sorcerer? Like
a
witch doctor?
Soldier, D-E-M-M, yeah.
D-E-M-M.
A soul eater.
Yes.
Which I think of Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver.
Epic game.
Gamer.
Epic gamer moment. So
yeah.
I felt like this book did that sort of thing really well.
Yeah. I think that what it really did well, too, is like dive into the morality of just killing people in war, too. Like there's a great few pages, or there may be one chapter where he dives into basically his commanders being freaked out by the way, like at first, like after, I think he says like after the first 3 hands, everyone like was like patting me on the back, even though I was covered with blood and mud because I've been out all night like hunting a man. But like he said, like after the 5th one or something, people started to fear him, and he starts diving into the need for madness in a soldier. But once it goes past a certain point, you become like it's like too much for the higher ups. It's like you're killing people and you're like striking fear in our enemy, but you're also striking fear in our soldiers and on our own side. And I don't know. I like the discussion of like, well, what the fuck is war? It is murdering people,
right?
So no matter what, it is horrible. So why are there lines drawn? Well, and I think it goes back to like the gentlemanness of war, which I think is obviously like the most backward statement possible. I mean, it's murder. Every soldier that's killed anyone has murdered people. Mm-hmm. And I think it's always been interesting to me to think about how like the human race as a whole has always looked past that, or like the majority of humans have looked past that and been like, well, it's just war. So we're going to look past the morality of it.
You're exactly right about the like gentleman's war thing here too, because his commanding officer, Captain Armand, I think. Yeah. Captain Armand, you know, that's basically what he says to him when he's ultimately sent to the back where he's supposed to get, you know, ostensibly some sort of mental health care or whatever, because he's cutting off these hands. And Armand says at one point, you're like, this is just not how it's done. Like, this is just not what we do. Which, of course, is cruelly ironic because Armand is also, like, deeply, deeply disturbing as a character in a lot of ways. Like, one of the darkest scenes in the book is there's a group of soldiers who at one point are like, dude, fuck this. We're not gonna go fight today, when he blows the whistle. And he's like, you're disobeying an order, right? Are you disobeying my order? And he ties their hands behind their backs and makes them climb the trenches and run into the battlefield with their hands tied behind their backs. And his speech, which gets back to what we were talking about earlier a little bit, is explicitly references like if you guys, hey, you can do that. You don't have to do this, but if you don't, I'm going to kill you anyway, and I'm going to tell everyone you know that you were a coward and died like a coward, and your wives and mothers are not going to get any pension money, and you're not going to get, any posthumous awards or anything. And they all do it except for one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Armand. Yeah. Armand is explicitly like described as liking the pretense of the rules of war in order to maintain the legitimacy of war and not reveal the truth about like the fundamentals of it, which Alpha represents, because Armand is even worse than Alpha. He is like a fucking, he's called. Okay, so I actually have this marked up. Captain Armand is a small man with matching black eyes, drowning in continuous rage. His matching black eyes are full of hate for anything that isn't war. For the captain, life is war. The captain loves war the way men love a capricious woman. The captain indulges war shamelessly. He showers war with presents. He spoils her with countless soldiers' lives. The captain is a devourer of souls. I understand that Captain Armand was a dem who needed his wife, war, to survive, just the way she needed a husband like him to support her. I understand that Captain Armand would do whatever possible to continue to make love to war. I understand that he saw me as a dangerous rival who could spoil his whole love affair with war.
Yeah.
So...
Captain Armand wants to fuck war. He wants to fuck trenches.
Well, that's actually an important point, Paul, because the trenches are described over and over again as like gaping
like
wounds
women,
of the
like
earth
with the
yeah, just big vaginas being open.
Armand fucking loves the smell of napalm in the morning.
He does. I mean, like, yeah, the trenches are described as women's genitalia, and these men are born basically like every day, multiple times a day, to go do the opposite and die. I mean, it's almost heavy-handed, a little bit, I would say.
I just wanted to read, because I found that passage that you were referencing earlier, Paul, and I wanted to read it about madness in war, because I think it speaks to some of this as well. Don't tell me we don't need madness on the battlefield. God's truth, the mad fear nothing. The others, white or black, play at being mad, perform madness so that they can calmly throw themselves in front of the bullets of the enemy on the other side. It allows them to run straight at death without being too afraid. You'd have to be mad to obey Captain Armand when he whistles for the attack, knowing there's almost no chance you'll come home alive. God's truth, you'd have to be crazy to drag yourself screaming out of the belly of the earth. The bullets from the enemy on the other side, the giant seeds falling from the metallic sky. They aren't afraid of screams. They aren't afraid to pass through heads, flesh, to break bones, and to sever lives. Temporary madness makes it possible to forget the truth about bullets. Temporary madness in war is bravery's sister. But when you seem crazy all the time, continuously without stopping, that's when you make people afraid, even your war brothers. And that's when you stop being the brave one, the death defier, and become instead the true friend of death, its accomplice, its more than brother.
Yeah, I love that line. The brother of bravery.
Madness is bravery's
madness.
sister or whatever. Yeah,
That's so good.
I was thinking of Septimus a little bit too with Alpha.
From Mrs. Dalloway. Yeah,
just in the way he's reacting to the death of somebody very close to him in this almost spiritual awakening, where himself and like his like body and subjectivity and all this are starting to like lose their substance, and he's starting to like merge with people in this almost like I don't know, godlike way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where he thinks he's like seeing through something. Like he's like, it's a revelation to him when his friend dies. He's like, I saw my friend die horrifically, and like he's kicking himself from the fact that he did not do what his friend asked, and like,
which was slit his throat.
yeah, the friend wanted to die, and he didn't do it, and then like a big refrain early on is like, I finally learned to think for myself. If were I what I am now, I would have killed him on his first sort of begging to be killed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
one
I
of the
think
other
we
sort of
should-
major themes of the book, I think, is Alpha's kind of, like you said, Matt, his like awakening. And I think the revelatory aspect of the refrain, like God's truth, God's truth, God's truth. He's like, it's this, I get it now. The phrase that he uses over and over again is that I now allow myself to think anything I want.
Yeah.
Descent into psychopathy. I think we maybe should talk a little bit in detail about what he does to the 7 soldiers that he ends up hunting, because it's like, I think, like you said, Gabe, in the beginning, like the way he copes with his loss is very, very strange. I mean, he watches his friend die by basically being like his guts were out of his body. And I don't know if they ever clearly say how. He just got shot in his guts,
Bayonet,
whatever. It was a bayonet.
Yeah.
So what he does to the 7 soldiers he ends up killing and taking the hands of is he hunts them, he slashes their behind their knees to make them like incapacitated, binds them, and like the chapter where he's describing the process of his murderings is like serial killer level, mind hunter, I Saw the Devil type brutality.
Yeah.
Like I just watched I Saw the Devil again because I'm in Halloween mode, and I was thinking about that a lot. Has a lot of parallels actually, but I mean, he ends up like exposing their white bellies, and he talks about like staring into their blue eyes, and he
disembowels them
like
like Armand or Madembe.
Yeah, but it's just like that whole chapter where he's describing like the looks on their faces and their eyes like fading when they know they're gonna die is just like absolutely insane. But he ends up disemboweling them, laying next to them sometimes as they're dying, and then slitting their throat, which is what he didn't do to his friend. I can't think of his name.
Mademba.
Yeah, and he talks about like how he actually is bringing out his own humanity by slitting their throats. So like,
because
it's just so twisted.
Because in his mind, his sort of traditional beliefs about morality in the moment of Mademba's death and his failure to kill him prevented him from being fully human in that moment, right? And so it's this sort of thing about traditional morality kind of clouding his human kind of intuition, which is like put this guy out of his misery. And I think that like you said, Paul, it gets twisted into this really dark logic about where humanness comes from and like what the nature of humanity is and morality.
Which I think is one of the biggest themes about the book for me, is that like war ends up twisting morality, right? It's like it's inevitable, and it gives birth to unique ideas of individuals' morality, and it turns into absolute madness. But war ends up weirdly giving birth to new ideas and new thoughts about morality.
Yes. Shout out to Fallout. War is hell.
Right.
Or war never changes. Whatever.
Yeah.
I have that passage. Or go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just thinking, because like you were saying, war leads to new ideas. You said about morality, but just earlier we said, that this first big global conflagration like led to modernism, and these like new approaches to all different artistic mediums in general. And I think that's part of the same idea, right? Like, you see this rupture, and presuppositions, stability, morality included in that, are gone, and a bunch of people are left to kind of just reckon with what just happened and what it means. And part of modernism that I think is interesting is like I feel like it was still people kind of looking to see whether or not things from the past and in existing culture could lend a hand and like be helpful in their coping with like the trauma, which is why I think in this book you see the shift to a like old folktale, an old Senegalese folktale.
Yeah, and we saw that in Wolf too, like the sort of thinking back to old resources to help make sense of current traumas and struggles, but also trying to reappropriate or use them in a different way potentially. And I think one of the reviews that I saw on YouTube by a guy, I don't know his name, but the channel is KD Books. Shout outs to KD Books. You should come on the show. He sort of argued that this book is actually a modernist novel, and for him that was kind of a negative because he thought it wasn't, whatever. But would you guys say this is a modernist novel in that sense?
In some ways, yeah. Maybe that's why I liked it, though. Maybe that's why it's one of the post-2000 books that I ended up liking. But yeah, I feel like it has a lot of modernist ideal. I feel like this book could have been written post-World War I, like directly post. It felt like of that time, actually. It didn't feel like a recent book to me. I can't really point to exactly how it fits into modernism. I'm not like well versed enough to know, but it, in my basic viewpoint, I would say yes, it felt modernistic.
Yeah, I'd say it fits into that mold. But I also kind of like, if we want to shout out another BookTube channel, Orpheus.
Shout outs.
He was sort of
come on the show.
Come on the show, bro. He was expressing the doubts about whether or not modernism has actually like whether or not modernism has not just sort of been kind of what's been going on still, even with the like notional like postmodern turn.
Yeah. Has modernism even been fully exhausted?
Right. And I'm kind of sympathetic to that interpretation of things.
Yeah. It reminded me, I was thinking about this a lot because I watched that review and started thinking about this book in the context of modernism, but it reminded me of, and I don't know if you guys have read this, but it's a short story. It's not a short story. It's like I guess we'd probably call it microfiction these days. It's like 2 or 3 pages by Maurice Blanchot, who is someone that I really like, his both his fiction and his literary criticism and philosophy. But it's called The Instant of My Death, and Derrida wrote like a whole book on this story. But the story itself is about a guy, I think it's World War II, who is about to be executed by a firing squad, and it touched in some ways on this book, specifically the very end. To me, there were some resonances because a lot of that book is about this guy kind of like having this again, like this borderline religious, like out of body, like I'm no longer self-identified with myself sort of experience. And Blanchot, the reason I bring it up is because Blanchot is often sort of lumped in or considered to be more of a postmodern thinker.
Right.
And I was sort of, maybe we'll do a little Patreon video or something where we all read that story and talk about it in connection with this book. But I just thought it was an interesting sort of juxtaposition between that approach and what we might argue is a modernist approach here.
But what would you say is like I don't know, this hyper simplified thrust of the Blanchot story?
I mean,
having not read it,
yeah, it's very like it's experiential, right? It's about like this moment of death, and then I think ultimately the soldier is actually saved in the story, but it becomes this, and then he goes on to sort of live his life, and there's some brief like discussion about it. But he always carries this moment of dying with him, and sort of believes himself in the rest of his life to be dead. And the last line of the story is I am alive. No, you are dead. And it's sort of this like talking to himself with these like dual identities, one alive, one dead, which is basically what happens at the end of this book, except it's it's not one person, it's two people. It's Medemba and Alpha, and Medemba sort of comes to be in Alpha. We don't really know exactly what happens. But it's this dead and alive identities sort of conversing with one another and trying to kind of make sense of their experiences in war.
Yeah, that's like it's interesting to me because like in some ways modernism is kind of like an epilogue for the prior history for humanity, right? It's just like we're like almost we reached a point where everything became so fucking terrible that it's almost like a lot of what we were as humans may have been like killed off. So we are kind of like living with the dead, even like since World War One. It's like we're living with this dead idea of how things used to be, and we all kind of feel this deadness. And I think it's kind of there's proof by this book still considered to be a modernist book potentially that idea is still resonating with a lot of people. And even though obviously we're so young, we didn't live through the initial startings of this kind of feeling in our society, but it's like it's within us. Maybe.
Go ahead, man.
Oh, and just like I think as far as Diop goes, the writer, who again, the implications of one of the characters who. I don't know if there's a way to confirm whether or not Diop is actually writing about Medemba being a literal ancestor, potentially, of the writer. I don't know about that.
It's possible.
But Diop is an 18th century literature PhD or something?
Yeah, he's a professor of I think that's right, Matt. 18th century literature or something like that.
Did he have succulent pecs and a handsome smile?
He's a good-looking guy.
A photo.
He's a good-looking guy.
He's handsome. I don't know if he has like a six pack.
I don't know about
stuff.
his pecs, but
yeah, he looks pretty average on that department, but he's like scholarly in a handsome way.
Yes, that's right. Hot professor.
Yeah, hot for teacher.
Dave.
Yeah, what's up, Dave?
Yeah, yeah. So that you're exactly right, Matt. 18th century French literature is kind of his academic specialty.
So, again, not my specialty. So, not sure what in that can be picked up in this. But
do we have specialties?
No. No. Kind of the point.
Over time, we probably will. We'll all be specialists on the show.
We're all special.
We're definitely all special. That's true. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to Steve from Blue's Clues for reminding me of that this week.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah, that was epic.
I also loved your album with the Flaming Lips.
Steve is an absolute Giga Chad.
That shit was actually not bad.
I just wanted to go back a little bit and read this passage that Paul referenced about him killing what I think is his final kill. This young, kind of innocent, scrawny soldier from the other side that he scoops up because he sees the smoke rising from his cigarette out of the trench at night with a guy standing guard. And this touches on a lot of the themes I think that we've already mentioned. So it's a little bit long, but whatever.
Deal with it.
Deal with it. God's truth. The enemies on the other side were very tired. That night they lowered their guard after singing. I don't know why the little enemy soldier wasn't tired that night. Why he went to smoke his tobacco after his trench mates had gone to sleep. God's truth. It was fate that made me capture him and not someone else. It was written on high that it would be him I would find in the middle of the night in the hot pit of the enemy trench. Now I understand that nothing is simple about what's written on high. I understand, but I don't tell anyone because now I think what I want for no one but myself ever since Medemba Diop died. I believe I understand that what's written on high is only a copy of what man writes here below. God's truth, I believe that God always lags behind us. It's all he can do to assess the damage. He couldn't have wanted me to catch the little blue-eyed soldier in the hot pit of the enemy trench. I don't believe the proprietor of the fourth hand in my collection had done anything wrong. Okay, so I guess this is only the fourth kill. I could read it in his blue eyes when I gutted him in La Terre à Personne, no man's land, as the captain said. I could see in his eyes that he was a good boy, a good son, still too young to have known a woman, but a good future husband, certainly. And here I had to fall on him, like death and destruction on innocence. That's war. It's when God lags behind the music of men, when he can't untangle the threads of so many fates at the same time. God's truth, you can't blame God. Who's to say I love that line, at least so good. Who's to say he didn't want to punish the parents of the little enemy soldier by making him die at war by my black hand? Who's to say he didn't want to punish the little enemy soldier's grandparents because he'd run out of time to redress the suffering they'd caused their own children? Who's to say? God's truth. God may have lagged behind in his punishment of the little enemy soldier's family. I am well positioned to know that he did punish them, gravely, by punishing their son or grandson. Because the enemy soldier suffered, as did the others, when I extracted the insides of his body to expose them to the air outside in a little pile next to his still living body. But I really did come to pity him very, very quickly. I minimized the punishment through him of his grandparents or parents. I let him beg me only once, tears in his eyes, before I finished him off. He could not have been the one who disemboweled my more than brother Madame Diop. He also could not have been the one who pulverized with a single shell the head of my friend Jean-Baptiste, the Joker driven to despair by a perfumed letter.
Joker.
I know. That's part of why I wanted to read it, I'm not going to lie. The Joker.
That guy was the Joker.
Jean-Baptiste was the Joker.
Jean-Baptiste was definitely the Joker.
No
World
joke
War I
intended.
Joker.
Yeah. So he
Truly.
Just to explain, well, someone explain who Jean-Baptiste was.
He was just like another soldier who, he's described as like having too much fun because he ends up taking like one of the hands that Alpha cuts off and like straps it to his helmet and starts like taunting the German soldiers, and it gets to the point where like they know that the German soldiers they're like out to get him. Because like he's got a fucking he's got a hand strapped to his helmet,
and I think he goes out of his way to prop up the middle finger on the hand, and then
that was my favorite.
Wraps it around his helmet.
Yeah. He tapes a middle finger he tapes a bird flying basically to the top of his helmet.
So epic.
But it's basically revealed that he has like a death wish, really, and he wants to die.
He's sort of like the only like white French soldier who kind of gets what Alpha's doing, or from Alpha's perspective anyway, who sort of is kind of like on the level, and he's completely Joker-fied. Like
he gets
he's in a Suicide
Joker-fied.
Squad.
Yeah.
100%. He gets Joker-fied though, and again, you were describing like Alpha kills this soldier in retaliation, and the description of him as having never known a woman. I think sex is just a huge fucking through line. Like
huge,
fucking absolute. Like women and their role. I mean, it's like it could be regarded as I don't know, somewhat distasteful or problematic in some way.
I could definitely see people feeling that way reading this book. Yeah.
No one wants to think of the trench as some whore's vagina being, spread open to discharge,
screaming soldiers.
Screaming soldiers. But even Jean-Baptiste, he's Joker-fied because he's being held together by the thought of a lovely young woman who will, maybe be his wife or something back home. And the whole thing is like he was undone by what he calls a perfumed letter.
Which we assume is the like, I'm breaking up.
The like, I can't wait for you to get back. Like I actually met someone else kind of message. And then he's Joker-fied immediately.
Instantly Joker-fied.
Instantly like, you know
epic
what?
Gamer moment.
Yeah, epic. How about I'm an epic gamer and I strap cadaver parts to my body, and in an attempt to commit suicide by soldier. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely very epic.
Yeah.
But
Tomato Town style.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe since you brought up sex, Matt, we should talk about it a little more because
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Let's talk about all the. I don't know. I had something, but
Oh, you didn't even make it to one verse.
I'm sorry, dude.
One verse, not even.
It was gonna end with PTSD, and it was gonna be funny.
Oh.
Anyway,
okay, well.
so but I was gonna say, you think you're dead on that sex and women and sort of the female is a huge through line. Through
You know what I was
book.
saying, Gabe?
Do I want you to say it?
It's just, sex and death.
Yeah,
The only two things worth writing about.
That's right. Yeah, get that fucking coffee, people, because your boy would love this book. It is about exactly sex and death.
Yes.
Although he wouldn't love it because it's about race.
Yeah.
Also,
He'd miss a valence.
yeah. He'd somehow find a way to not talk about that aspect of the book at all in the
Played
review.
out. It's played out, dude.
Yeah,
bloodless and played out.
And sex and death are not at all.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is about that.
But it is about that for sure. Yes, there are so many like borderline offensive, like graphic descriptions of female genitalia and analogies made to female genitalia that I think, I could see that hitting people the wrong way for sure. And I think, the end of the book, which we'll probably talk about a lot more because it's cryptic as fuck, does involve a rape. And it is not clear sort of how exactly it happens or what exactly happens because, okay, so the last couple chapters, I'll try to explain it briefly. The last couple chapters take on what seemed to me to be the voice of like Mademba's reincarnated soul, sort of talking about like, it's a lot of stuff like, how did I get here? What body am I in? Like, what's happening? Where I was before, nobody had names, nobody had bodies, like, and then there's this moment where he just kind of finds himself, presumably in Alpha's body, I guess.
Yeah.
Essentially on top of the doctor at the hospital that he's at's daughter, who's also his assistant. It's his daughter, right? Or is it his wife?
It's his daughter. Yeah.
And, raping her, but always in his head being like, this is exactly correct. And like, she wanted this. And there's a reference to like her looking, but it's weird because Alpha mentions that she was looking at the middle of my body earlier.
Well,
but
this
then
is
Mademba's mind that's doing the raping. It's very complicated. And
well, this is the thing. It's like, Alpha back in what's the name of the town that they're from?
I
don't remember.
Gambiol?
Gambiol, I think. Yeah, Gambiol. Yeah. Gandiol.
Gandiol.
Yeah.
My bad.
You
Right. Again, this is why the whole thing about like losing your virginity, not in the like fucking cringe way that a lot of people talk about that issue now, but as a kind of like christening and I don't know, it's very
entering adulthood and so on.
Very very symbolically charged moment. Right, like Alpha. He has sex with a right before leaving for war with a woman named Fairy Diop, something like that. And even that moment is kind of adorably led up to and touching in a way. It's not violent in any sense, but
They're like
Madem-
holding hands and stuff. Like, don't they like hold
Yeah,
hands for 4
they're all
years?
hanging out with their friends, and then once exactly right. They were sort of dating for not date whatever. I don't know if dating is the right term, but had feelings for years, and she's like, no, we can't do it, and then right.
Well,
before he
socially
goes
they
off
weren't
to
allowed
war-
to.
Right. That's
So
right.
yeah. So it's kind of against social norms and customs. But she has sex with Alpha. But it was kind of known that Mademba was like crushing on her as well, and that he knew he didn't have a chance, and the inevitable happens, and Alpha, the fucking hot supermodel one, gets to go
The lacrosse player
have
of
sex.
the town,
The Chad.
captain of the lacrosse team.
But then because they're these like bounded souls, and Alpha feels responsible for the death of Mademba because like for a bunch of reasons we can talk about further, I think the ending is in parts like a possession where Alpha lends his body to Mademba in order to allow him to achieve this final thing that he believes is like important to complete his like progression as like a full human being, an adult, by being like, I know that this nurse wants me, but the reason it's a rape, I think, is because this nurse registers that it's not Alpha anymore, and that she's having sex with someone else, basically, and it's scary and weird and supernatural and like, but this is Alpha's gift to Mademba.
Right. And Alpha earlier in the book talks about that specifically, about how it's fucked up and bad that Mademba died without ever having sex.
Yeah.
And that's like a huge issue, and that's something that Alpha like thinks about like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could say that it's possibly like a juvenile type viewpoint, but we're also talking about people that are like 20 years old.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Which made me almost think of this book as kind of like a coming of age. It fits into like the coming of age type stories, I would say. I was actually thinking a bit of a separate piece
Sure.
when reading this.
Sure, yeah.
This like kind of guilt-stricken friend. It's kind of, the roles are kind of reversed in that book. But still, I was thinking a bit about that. But I kind of feel that maybe like the whatever happened can be kind of explained by some sort of weird traumatic psychosis, but there's enough of this like weird folklore in there that almost makes it like believably supernatural.
Yeah, I don't know if like most things supernatural, there's no way to avoid the possibility that it was by the end, right? You can't just be like,
Yeah.
no, ghosts are stupid, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
You know? But that is what the whole like last half is in service of. I mean, because like, I don't know, it's strange. It's like, and probably if we knew more about like Senegalese culture and its colonial past and its folklore, maybe. But, just within the text, what we're working with is like, we get the recounting of an old folktale, right? About the Lion Sorcerer and the fickle princess,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up though, because before you got on, Gabe and I were just kind of talking briefly about it, and I was like, this book got so weird towards the end. I had to read the second half, like the folklore part in particular. I had to read it twice, and I still was just like, what the hell is that? So I'm glad that you brought up the point that like the whole story as a whole it fits into the folklore story, and that like kind of blew my mind, like a Tim and Eric type.
Well, because
for me,
like it's like some like Alpha is so physical, and like you said, I think Alpha is a very intentional first name. Like,
yes,
I think it's meant to be that, and like I think Mademba is because he's so like thin and scrawny and whatever. Like I think
He's like Steve Rogers before he's Captain America.
yeah. I think it's literally supposed to kind of be like you've got mind and matter kind of meeting. You've got these two people. You've got the person who is like capable of memorizing the Quran and memorizing these oral traditions and like seeking further education. You know, he wants to learn fluent French and go to like an école de whatever fucking in mainland France.
École de baguette.
Yeah, or fucking
Moustache.
Chocolat. Chaud. That doesn't work with what we're talking about. They're literally called chocolat.
The chocolate soldiers. Yeah.
Nutella.
Was that on? Did we talk about that before or after we started recording?
After.
I hope after.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
we got his idiocy on audio.
You got yours.
But it's I just think, crudely put, like they are more than brother, but they complete each other in the sense of, I think, mind and body.
Well, they also talk about like pretty clear, like blatantly that they love each other, almost like in a way like they're in love. I don't know what you guys felt about that, but like
I didn't get any well,
what?
I didn't get homoerotic undertones at all.
I got a little bit of that.
I was thinking about this a lot as I was reading because it obviously occurs to you, right? When like two male childhood friends who are like specifically in the context of war together, referring to themselves as more than brothers and all
Sure.
of that. Like your mind does go there, but I don't know. I kind of fall a little more with Matt here is like I don't think that that's necessarily what Diop was trying to do per se. I didn't really get it that much, but I think it's natural for your mind to go there.
I think that he was clever in making your mind go to that point because he brings it up before it's shown, like the sexual encounter scenes are shown. So once Alpha talks about like having sex, that thought kind of leaves your brain, I would say. But I like the way he toes the line of just like you never totally you can't totally clearly know, I don't think. And he because that phrase like you're more than my brother. What is the phrase again?
Yeah, more than brother.
Yeah, my more than brother.
From another mother. But
yeah.
More than brother.
More than brother. It's like an ambiguity there. It's like a weird gray zone that adds to the overall interestingness of the relationship.
And there are a couple other little subtle moments where in Alpha's sort of like crazed rantings about how hot he is, he does mention multiple times how even men stare at the middle of my body and men love my smile and I can charm
That's true.
I can charm men with my smile and da 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 da.
Yeah. He's
That
just
is true.
raw sexual energy.
Yeah.
I was thinking of him kind of as like the id, like he kind of divulges into id. He's just like pure masculine id sexual energy murder.
But he's not really like after that in a way that would make me so much be like, this is what this guy is fully. You know what I mean?
I think that's why, for me, like that's part of why the rape scene is so shocking. And I think
brutal. It's horrible.
It's really bad.
Maybe we should read it.
We probably shouldn't, but I mean, whatever. But I think that Diop does a really subtle job of setting up Alpha, even in his most like physically brutal to the other soldiers, and all of his sort of internal thinking as. I don't know. I would argue kind of like broadly sympathetic. Like you kind of get, it's understandable, right? That he's had all this crazy trauma. He's like a colonial figure. He's being, deployed for this purpose. And you kind of, whether or not you morally excuse it or whatever, you can kind of get it. But then I think part of Diop's point is that like, the madness of war and trauma and all that, it doesn't just stop at the sympathetic stuff. You know what I mean? It goes further. It goes into the truly deplorable and awful and hideous. You know what I mean? And I think it's sort of just taking that to its logical conclusion and you know, it would have been easy to end this book in a way where Alpha is still, I think, someone that people can identify with and be like, I get, or if not identify with, at least sort of his behavior is intelligible, right? But it doesn't end that way, and I think that was intentional and like well done.
Were you guys? I was thinking a little bit of Simonon and Dirty Snow in particular. Reading this book, I was thinking of like the adolescent mind twisted by trauma or war in this case. But in Dirty Snow, you can kind of argue that that's the same ripples of war affected. I forget the main character in Dirty Snow, but that the main character's potential worldview. But yeah, I think you're right, Gabe. I think that like it becomes something more.
Let's lead up to World War II, right? I mean,
yeah, that's World War II.
During World War II, or at the beginning.
It's during.
Yeah.
It's it's of a piece, and it's still like wartime morality, which we were discussing earlier. Where
it's the sequel, so it's pretty.
Yeah, it is the sequel.
Everything's the sequel.
It's the same but more. Yeah, exactly right. Right, there's a disruption. There's a reassessment of what it means to be human, and the context is not something that exists normally.
Yep.
In particular, to be human, but also to be like a young adolescent alpha type person, and how that can potentially affect your psyche, which I just find like fascinating. I don't know. It comes up. It brings up the question of like, you know, what would he have been like? What would Alpha have been like without these experiences?
I mean, it does, and maybe this is going in a totally weird direction with it, but like, it does read again, like specifically sort of the rape scene and Alpha kind of talking about himself a little bit. And again, I cannot ignore that his name is just Alpha, and what that means in America at this moment in this context. But it does sort of read as this like inner monologue of, obviously it works as the inner monologue of this character, but also of like your average like lacrosse frat boy rapist.
Yeah.
Where they're like, I'm fucking hot. She looked at my dick earlier. Like this, she just loves it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's like too out there, but I think there's some
I don't think so.
Connection, like some resonances.
That's why I think, like, I really think that every 16-year-old in high school, particularly a boy that wants to join the army, maybe just a boy, should read this book. I think there's a lot of just weird, sexually Freudian moments that reading this at a young age might be a little bit eye-opening for a lot of younger people.
I don't know.
Maybe not eye-opening,
but
like
I would advise young
resonating.
people to read this book.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
Read it to your 6-year-old tonight, audience. They will learn a lot about the human condition.
The best bedtime story.
Yeah, reenact some of the scenes in the best ways you can to make it vivid.
And have Schindler's List on in the background.
Just get their teddy bear, and when he disembowels people, just rip the foam out from inside the teddy bear.
Lay next to it.
And just be like, it's like this. Yeah. You love this bear, right?
Yeah.
Reenact this whole book to your 6-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I think the one of the key differences though is I think you're right. Like I think Alpha in some ways was, by his own description, kind of a hot guy, came easy to him, you know, appealing to people.
Hot boy summer.
Empty-headed, physically capable, and that was about it. And he was like, the war is what got me to think beyond that. Where and then, you know, as we were mentioning, specifically not Mercy killing his friend, where he goes, okay, why did I not kill my friend? I didn't kill my friend because, and this is where I think it gets interesting internally for Alpha, is like, he's like, me and my friend were in a kind of insult-oriented relationship with each other, where we would egg each other on and make fun of each other's weaknesses. And dude, kind of, just dudes rock. You're a fucking pussy, dude. Your sigil animal or your totem animal is fucking lame.
Crane.
And,
it's like what is it? Some kind of crane or
the crowned crane for Madembe. He's like, yeah, you're scrawny. You're a stupid scrawny bird that eats fish, and I'm a lion.
You're ugly and handsome. I got big pectoral muscles and pectorals, and you got nothing.
Yeah, and he's like, you're a coward, and that's what he thinks. He's basically like. So then, on one of the whistle blows, Mademba goes out first, kind of playing up this token savage role, and also trying to prove himself, and that's why he gets killed, or at least that's what Alpha thinks. So like,
right.
Alpha's like, yo, I actually precipitated this. I'm to blame, and therefore I'm the killer of this person, and I didn't mercy kill him because I thought I could technically get away with what I genuinely did. It's my fault. Like, I did this. And I don't know, that's just that, like, I think that is an interesting rationale. Like, you could say, you didn't pull the trigger, you didn't do this, you didn't cause this entire situation. Like, this is a false line of thinking. But at the same time, I think, in some ways, Alpha is kind of taking a genuine responsibility and being like, yeah, I got wheels in my head. I got false gods that I'm worshiping. Like, I need to take account to the fact he describes his rationales for not killing Mademba as too well dressed to be trustworthy or something like that.
So good. Such a good line.
Yeah, I highlighted it. I'm not trying to. Kindle is a bitch to find the lines you highlighted.
You got to take screenshots, dude. I take screenshots.
Maybe.
Oh, is that the move?
That's what I do, and I circle them with my highlighter.
Or I have a Nook. I don't have a Kindle.
A Nook.
Yeah.
You do it all for the Nookie.
That's right.
That 2-second clip.
Clip that. Clip that.
That 2-second clip has to be the on our front page of our YouTube channel.
Hey, no one's here to be with me, but I ate Indian food, so it smelled too.
Oh God.
No, it's just got
no one's here to be with me. No one's here to be with
me. Yeah, but I'm trying to make a serious point, so stop joking around.
Sorry.
Why don't you quit it? All right.
Joking like Mademba and Alpha.
No, you guys are joking like John Baptiste. It's nihilistic. It's nihilistic and it's bad, and I want you to stop.
Sorry.
But my point being, just like, even in his faulty thinking, Alpha identifies something that I think is correct profoundly, right? Which is like, my preconceptions are so well formed prior to me even having like questioned them that they're weird. It's weird to me that they're like this, and I've only seen that they're weird now.
What do you mean
this
by
horrific
his preconceptions? Thing? Because of the folklore tale? Is that
his like the moral presuppositions that inform his decision not to mercy kill Mademba.
Like traditional morality, right?
Where
yeah.
Right? And it's like, even if he blames himself, which everyone would be like, no, it's not you, whatever, in a normal scenario, like his insight about that still kind of, I think, is correct, right? And that's what's tricky about the whole situation.
Totally. I think that's a really important point, Matt. Like, he and this is where all the imagery about the trenches being wombs and stuff and like giving birth and blah, blah, blah,
right,
come into play, in the sense that like Alpha, in a real way, sort of has these kind of revelatory moments because of war, and up to a point, they are true and admirable, right? Like war kind of recontextualizes and just like rejiggers like one's sense of morality. And he goes through that in a very like real and believable way, right? Like, oh, everything that I was taught traditionally growing up, like out of books or whatever, or by my parents or, religion or whatever, all of that shit kind of needs to go out of the window in this context. And he has to go through this horrible experience to realize that, but he does. And it's the right conclusion. But then, like we've been talking about, it gets twisted and spun in all of these awful directions. And that to me feels very believable. Like that to me feels very real. Again, not having any experience with war or, anything even remotely comparable, it felt like a very careful and real sort of description of the way that sort of logic and that sort of experience can spiral out of control.
Yeah. Yeah, traumatic. I mean, I kind of want to bring this up even though it's like personal and weird, but remember I told you guys like a year and a half ago when I was going through shit, I like saw I had a crazy psychotic experience and I saw a version of myself while I was driving late at night at like 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's a crazy story.
I was actually thinking about that a lot because I was like, traumatic experiences can incite very, very strange moments for you in your life because I've experienced that firsthand. And I like the way that he kind of rides the line between believability and unbelievability. But I sided more with believability, honestly, because of maybe my own personal experiences. But as Apocalypse Now maddening that it gets, it never like shot or it never jumped the shark for me. It was always very grounded and I was with it, even though it got like more and more absurd and insane. You just believe the trauma, especially because in the beginning he expresses so clearly his psychotic murdering, and I just kept thinking like, how does that not eventually catch up with you internally?
And I think that's what exactly right. And that's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier with like, I think that's what the best war media does is like ride that fucking lightning and never and get right to the edge of unbelievability and never go over. And I feel like this book did that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I have a little like chunk that I highlighted.
Go off, King.
It's what the fuck?
Chunk it up.
I don't know what chapter this is or whatever.
It's all Roman numerals, dude. We can't read them anyway.
Yeah, whatever the fuck this is. Chapter 24, I think.
Roman numerals. What even is that? Is that Greek?
It's all Greek to me, baby.
Oh shit! You said 24.
I think.
Okay, so towards the end.
Yes. This is kind of where
that's
Alpha,
a really short one, right? It's only like 2 pages.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's
okay.
kind of only one.
Yeah, I think I found it.
Alpha is full on Septimus. I am life and death. I am mother and daughter. I am
Septimus Prime.
He says I am double. I am all binaries are within me, etc. He's fully gone. But the middle paragraph of that goes, to translate is never simple. All right, good. Gabe also highlighted this.
I actually did too.
Nice. It's a short book, and these things are important and stand out. To translate is never simple. To translate is to betray at the borders. It's to cheat. It's to trade one sentence for another. To translate is one of the only human activities in which one is required to lie about the details to convey the truth at large. To translate is to risk understanding better than others that the truth about a word is not single, but double, even triple, quadruple, or quintuple. To translate is to distance oneself from God's truth, which, as everyone knows or believes, is single.
God is a Volcel. He's single.
No, I love that passage, and I think so. The context of that chapter is he's in the hospital, and they're basically asking him. They ask him what his name is, and he goes on this crazy rant about how he's life and death, and he eats boulders and like this and like all this stuff. And because he doesn't speak French, they have to translate what he just said into French, and then that paragraph happens. And I thought it was so well placed and like well, you know, it's just it's both so good for the story and also just so meta. As you know, Diop obviously knew this book was going to be translated when he wrote it. I'm assuming, you know, and so it's such a meta commentary on, you know, translation as a project in general. And I think that it was just so well placed,
and it's undercut by humor. Like
yes,
the translator within the novel, who's there to convey, you know, Ndaye's words, is like you know, like they're like, we asked his name. We definitely heard more words than his first and last.
Yeah,
we heard a paragraph. So like, what the fuck did he say?
It's like, worth reading the rest of that underneath it.
Do it, Paul.
They say, what did he say? Everyone asked. This is not the response we expected. The response we expected wouldn't be more than 2 words, possibly 3. Everyone has a last name and a first name, 2 first names at most. The translator hesitated, intimidated by the angry, worried looks being shot his way. He cleared his throat and answered the uniforms in a small, nearly inaudible voice. He said that he is both life and death.
It's so funny. You can just picture the scene.
It is funny,
and you know. But again, that theme of duality is like so. That's another one that runs through the book, right? This like, or this idea of being double, right? Like him and Mademba, and then you know, the sort of life and death, and I don't know. I think that it's kind of comes to fruition there.
Another weird double thing that I noticed. Did you notice that he kills 7 Germans, and the soldiers that are like basically traitors? There's 7 of them, and I was trying to find a correlation between.
I did not actually pick up on that. That's a good catch.
I just didn't really. I noticed it, but I was like, what the hell what's the correlation between those 2 groups of people, like the soldiers he murders and the traitors? Which I don't think is very clear.
I don't know, but I definitely think it's significant that there's 7 of both.
Yeah.
Which I missed. I don't know if you caught that, Matt.
Does that have anything to do with creation, like the 7 days?
It probably does.
Maybe that, or the 7 deadly sins, which I was hoping it wasn't.
I mean, it could be all. I mean, 7 is one of these
a significant number in the.
Yeah, which again, I'm not going to be able to plumb in depth. But I know, like, in terms of numerology, which plays a large role in, you know, the Old Testament and, you know, in the Talmud and stuff, it's
Yes.
there's a lot to dive in there too. If that's indeed something he like was exploring.
If there's any Talmudic numerology podcasts out there,
yeah, we got Kabbalah people out there and shit. That would be cool. We would love to know.
oh yeah, Madonna, come on the show.
Madonna.
The premier source of information.
That's right. On the Kabbalah. Yeah, please. Yeah, no, I did not pick up on that, Paul, but I think that is actually really interesting. It's sort of like maybe like a balance thing almost. You know?
Yeah, I think of it as a balance thing, like maybe a take on the weird equality that up to a certain point in the war both sides face. It was just like it was just like an equal number of soldiers, I think, dying for a number of years, because it was just like the playing field was just so equal. Like,
right.
what else can you do? So no matter what hell is going on.
Well, and that's another duality, right? Just the 2 trenches, like opposite each other, facing each other.
Yeah. Well, and like a big thing about World War I too is just like it was called like the Stalemate War. I think it was just a stalemate for years. I think until the Americans came in, which is us. We rule. We won.
America forever.
Yeah. Heroes
But maybe
of the
it's
world.
like a pessimistic view on like, yeah, there's -7 for both sides in equally, or maybe not equally, but like both very, very horrible ways. These 14 soldiers died on each side. But at the end of it is just a number, which is disturbing and sad.
I think that's actually, like, I didn't pick up on that either. I think that's probably true. Like, I think you just get a nullity. You get a 0 by the end of it in terms of numerologically. Yeah, I think that has to be, for something this short, like, especially, like, everything needs to be, like, I feel if it's worth its salt, at least story wise, then everything should be weighed heavier.
Have a purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also, like, morally, right, you wind up with this fucking null.
Yeah.
Which is war, right? Like, there's no, there's no, like, moral winner. You know what I mean? It's just over, and then we're all left asking.
I think
Shout
that's
outs
right.
to Afghanistan, and then we're all just left asking, like, what the fuck was the point of any of this?
Right.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Afghanistan.
That was probably bad.
What up, Kabul?
What up?
Yeah, sick.
That's bad.
Well, I think we should at some point. Maybe we can talk now about a little bit about the folktale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk about
I want
that.
to talk about that, and I want to talk about the chapter about Alpha's mother.
Oh my
I
God.
thought that was like, because that was almost like a folktale in itself too.
That's like the interim kind of third piece that we
Yes.
talked about that links the two halves, quote unquote.
So go off on the folktale.
Well, let's do the mom because that's
Yeah, let's do the mom.
all right, Paul.
Well, so the reason that I wanted to talk about it, but Paul brought up, Paul used the word Freudian earlier, and I think it's interesting to think about. Like, there's a long chapter. Most of the chapters of this book are very short, and there's a couple long ones, and one of the long ones is about Alpha. He's already at the back in the hospital, recounting the story of his childhood, not with Mademba, but with his father and mother, who, his father was a, noble, like a nobleman in their village, basically, sort of one of the, like, high families, not
Like founding father.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. And there was like a tribe of kind of like roaming,
I wish you could find
herders
the name of their.
The name of what?
It's something I forget. It's like it starts with an F. It's like their.
The tribe,
Yeah.
the Fula.
Yes. Yeah.
And so they come through every year at a specific time of year, and Alpha's father, whose name I can't remember, is he named? His mother is.
I think he was named.
I forget if his father is named. He refers to him just as the old man at the beginning.
Yeah. That's what I remember. That's it.
I don't know if his father is ever named. Anyway, but his father always offers who owns a farm, like a sort of like a ranch almost, and he offers his well and some of his food stores to this traveling tribe that comes through. And after a few years, the leader of this tribe, Yoruba, essentially, says in order to sort of thank you or pay you or whatever, I want you to marry my daughter, one of my daughters. And this is Alpha's father's, I forget, fourth wife. Fourth. And he's already old at this point, and he kind of begrudgingly accepts and marries this daughter of this tribe.
Just to speak of numerology, by the way, I just now thought about it.
Yeah.
Four is that's the hand that stops people from trusting Alpha.
Oh fuck! Yeah, you're right.
So I don't know. That's also just a cursed number 4. I don't know.
And the passage we read earlier of the young guy who Alpha feels bad about killing. That was his fourth kill.
Yes, which is why the vibes are bad when he gets back with the hand. Also, the war lasted 4 years.
Fuck.
So I don't know.
So
I like that.
damn, yeah, okay. So that's probably a thing.
And Alpha probably had 4 dicks.
If I had to guess.
Oh, there's that passage about Mademba's dick being 4 inches long.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Which is why we could never fuck anybody.
Right. Incel.
It's a 4-inch.
So anyway, like long story short, I mean, it's very long. It's like it's almost like a short story in and of itself. This chapter, but long story short, Alpha's mother, whose name is Pendo.
Long story short story.
Long story short story in a story. Anyway, his mother, whose name is Pendo Ba, marries his father, and then her family stops coming back. Right, they stop coming through the village. And she starts getting depressed and increasingly sort of, unhappy because, she's lived her whole life as this kind of roaming, whatever, being in one place is not working for her. And ultimately she tries to go off and find her family again. And he wants to go with her, but his father and she won't let him do that. And she never comes back and she's lost forever. And one of the things that he talks about is dreaming about finishing the war with Mademba, getting their pensions, and then using the money to find his mother, who he is convinced was kidnapped by
Moorish Bedouins,
marauders,
something. Yeah.
And I mean, I just thought that chapter was so interesting and beautiful, and like again, like you said, Matt, like it's this folklore tale within a larger narrative alongside other folklore tales. I don't know. I don't know what y'all made of that chapter.
Well, what I was thinking was that chunk about translation that I read is, I think, with the 3 phases, you get 3 further you get further away in immediate memory, right? You just get translations. Like, it's Alpha's literal experience firsthand in war, then you get his memories of his parents, which is, remembering things is already a sort of translation, and then you get a literal folk tale, ancient, prior to his birth by many, many, many years, having been passed down by many people, so therefore translated. And so you just get but what's funny is it kind of undercuts it by being the farther you get from God's truth, these translations are just layers of untruth piled over immediate experience, which should be the most truthful. But at the same time, this book seems to indicate that there is still a just direct line, right? Everyone has their role that they play within this ancient folk tale in a contemporary setting. So it kind of undercuts the whole notion of translation as a problem to access God's truth.
Which I think is, a big
below.
part of why it's just that refrain, God's truth, God's truth, God's truth. It's almost performative. Like he's repeating it in order to try to tell even himself that nothing is being lost, right? Like that this is the truth, even though he at some level knows that it isn't and can't be.
Right.
I think that narratively, I really like the structure. I like it's not something that I would maybe consider doing if I were setting out to write a book, to put the most blatant, gory, shocking moments in the beginning, and then kind of not subdue you, but it seems to fade away. You fade from direct truth, direct action, direct experiences to past experiences to the folklore tale, which is not even his experiences. It's an old folklore tale. And I just thought that was very genius almost and impactful to like. It was kind of like, I don't know. It was just brilliant, I thought, to like, and it was shocking that I was hooked the whole time. When the most shocking moments, like physically and bloodily, happened in the beginning.
Yeah,
but it almost became more shocking though towards the end too, though, because of the structure. I don't know.
I mean, I'll say this is not a call out, but one of the other things that KD Books talks about in his review on YouTube is that he felt like the book kind of plateaus halfway through and doesn't go anywhere. And I just could not disagree with that more. Like the back half of this book is so
important,
juicy and important and beautiful and interesting. Like I just that was not my experience of reading the book at all. I had a similar one.
No, it like amplified. It kept going up exponentially, like population.
Nice.
Weird transition, but yeah, I like it. This is now a Malthusian podcast.
Yeah, I think the mom is significant. She's literally the life source of Alpha's dad towards the end of his life. He's said to have physically drained and become gray and aged.
I have that passage, which is.
Oh, can I read? Can I read something real quick? Actually,
please.
Yeah.
It just relates to it's after the mom is presumed dead or missing. I think it's the final passage of one chapter I didn't actually mark, but as soon as he learned the news of Pinobah's capture by the Moors, my father passed definitively into old age. God's truth, he continued to laugh, to smile at us, to joke about the world and about himself, but he was never the same again. In one instant, he lost half of his youth. He had lost half of his joy in existing.
Yeah.
That's exactly the page I was going to read.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like, women, they're, I think pretty overtly and almost heavy-handedly are just like the source of life and also kind of the source of memory. Because I have a passage to pair with that towards the almost very end, which is in the folk tale phase of like the Lion Sorcerer or whatever. So it goes, so as soon as she could, the fickle princess fled, but the Lion Sorcerer took off after her in hot pursuit. The Lion Sorcerer knew that if he lost the princess, he would lose his only story. He would lose his meaning. He would lose even his name, that of Lion Sorcerer. With the princess gone, his land became no man's land again, for it was the princess who had enlivened it with her fancies. His land would never resuscitate itself unless the fickle princess returned to his cave kingdom. Even the life of the Lion Sorcerer himself depended on the fickle princess's eyes, ears, and mouth. You're undercutting me. Without her,
I moved my mic away. I thought you couldn't hear me. Shit, sorry. I really moved it.
Without her, his scarless beauty would remain invisible. Without her presence, his roars would be inaudible. Without her voice, his cave kingdom would be erased from the world. So, in a final kind of ancient oral tradition, folktale kind of way, you get it laid bare, I think.
So basically this story, it's about the fickle princess and her vain father, the king, and this scarless prince comes, but it turns out he's a fake prince and he's a sorcerer, a lion sorcerer, right? And he basically captures her and takes her back to his cave. And then she escapes with the help of a handmaiden to the king's like enchanted objects that she, right?
But I don't even know if it's that simple. Like I think
it's not. I'm trying to. Yeah, I was trying.
But you're right. Yeah, you're right. Like I think but it's weird because like the ugly archer who ends up shooting an arrow into the lion.
Right.
The Lion Sorcerer is in my guess effectively Mademba, who is actually the one who died in reality which makes it completely different.
Yes.
But he's not the one who died a real death. That's
Well,
that's where I start to lose the thread myself, and I haven't really fully formulated like a idea.
Yeah,
So my
it's
thinking
not
was
one to one.
No, it's
No,
not
by any
1-to-1
means.
for sure. I mean, my thinking was that like if we're mapping characters onto this story, which I think, like Paul said correctly, it's not like a 1-to-1 thing. But I think that I think the Lion Sorcerer being a lion and Alpha's house totem being a
yeah.
lion is obviously relevant, and him being this. And he's called a warrior sorcerer, right? Or I forget the exact term that they
Soldier
use.
sorcerer.
Soldier sorcerer. And so I think that he's sort of, in kind of disguise the whole time, right? And then, again, whether it's his mother who, he needs to maintain his identity, I love the phrase cave kingdom because that's sort of what Alpha is creating for himself in his own mind, is this space, this cave where he's the king. He can think whatever he wants. He only does it for himself. But he needs that other node, that other connection, whether it's Mademba or maybe his mother. And then ultimately it's taken out violently and terribly on the doctor's daughter. But he needs that in order to maintain this world that he's crafted for himself.
Yes.
Again, that's probably a little simplistic, but something in that direction is kind of how I felt about it.
It makes him a modern subject. Like he needs a bit. He needs eyes to make himself real to himself, I guess, or something like that.
Right. There's no Cartesian cogito, right? As much as he wants to be that, it's always has to be in communication with others or in interaction at least.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's weird because he seemed to be a creature of pure instinct earlier. But like then there's all this stuff about what am I trying to say here?
I don't know.
Like he was happy in the village. He got the girl. He was fulfilling his predestined, sort of role by being the just beautiful, person.
Hot Boy Summer person.
Yes, just easily getting the hottest girl in the village.
Yeah, so easily that she she comes up to him basically in a school dance and like touches her thigh to his thigh.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
and but even fuck, dude, I like this because even then there's like, but like tribal politics get in the way. Like his Alpha's dad was a dick to some plan that Fairy's dad was trying to implement as the actual, right? Like he's the actual tribal chief, correct?
I don't remember if he is or not.
It's well, who? Not
Fairy's dad.
Fairy's dad.
Fairy's dad. Yeah. Not Alpha's dad.
Right. So the thing that some of the inputs that I'm trying to like mix into everything are like Alpha's dad and his implications, and then Pendo Ba, right, the mom.
Yeah, Alpha's mother.
Which I believe are there to complicate what could just be a very like clean pairing of the first and second half. I think the middle is there to create the tension that makes the first and second half not flow easily into each other, and be the important element of like translation being a messy and if you don't want to say this, but whatever, like God's truth being stepped away from.
Right.
And I don't know what to make of it, really.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I don't know how I piece together like the psychological aspects and the war aspects with the translation topics and themes brought up in the book. I don't really know how they don't really meld together that well for me. I think when I'm actually thinking about it, like, what exactly is he trying to say something like two separate things in the same story, or do they meld somehow that I'm not seeing?
I don't think they're separate. I think it's almost like a, you know, the narrative is inverted in the sense that like the Alpha that we see at the beginning of the story is, you know, the version of himself that has been twisted by war, but not fully twisted, right? That doesn't happen until the end. And then we sort of see some of the preconditions, like Matt said, some of the inputs that kind of make this outcome possible, right? His trauma of his losing his mother, all of this childhood stuff with Mademba, and all of that is, I think, you know, feeds into what Alpha becomes after being kind of cleaved and traumatized by the war. So it's a way of explaining or sort of, you know, detailing how. I mean, I think part of it is that Alpha could have gone a lot of different ways in his life, but these specific things that happened when he's young, and the specific things that happened to him in the war, make this sort of outcome that we ultimately see almost logical, or at least possible.
I mean, I definitely see it that way. I never, like, I think I've already said this, but I'll reiterate that I never thought it was unbelievable. It almost felt like a ripple effect when you throw like a stone in a lake or something. Like everything just seemed like a step that would happen, you know? But yeah, I don't know. I'm still not totally grasping how the translation theme fits in with it. Maybe I just missed it. I'm sorry, but you don't have to explain it again. I
don't think I explained it either. I don't have an explanation. Like I think when the folktale kicks in, I think we're fully in Mademba's mind instead, because Mademba's already been characterized as somebody who actually is capable of doing things like fully memorizing a story.
I had not thought of that. That's a really interesting interpretation.
I have one more little chunk.
Please.
Which again, I think starts like to try and be like, listen, we're at the end of the book, like get it, you know, kind of deal.
Idiot.
Yeah, you fucking idiot.
You fucking idiot.
So this chapter starts with, or a little break starts with, I swear to you that I heard the story of the Lion Sorcerer just before leaving for the war. And I think this is Mademba. This story, like all interesting stories, is full of clever innuendo. Whoever tells a well-known story like the one about the Lion Sorcerer and the fickle princess might always be hiding another story beneath it. To be seen, the story hidden beneath the well-known story has to peek out a little bit. If the hidden story, so this would be the similarities between characters in that, and you know them. If the hidden story hides too well beneath the well-known story, it stays invisible. The hidden story has to be there without being there. It has to let itself be guessed at. The way a tight saffron yellow dress lets the beautiful figure of a young girl be guessed at. It has to be transparent. When it's understood by those for whom it is, intended. The story hidden beneath the well-known story can change the course of their lives, can push them to transform a diffuse desire into a concrete act. It can heal them from the sickness of hesitation, no matter the expectations of an ill-intentioned storyteller.
That's good. Actually, that made me think of a thing I was thinking of earlier about the story element being in place within this story. I was thinking Alpha was like this story was resonating in his psyche, and even though the stories don't match up one for one, he's trying to place his own story within this story
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like a spook. Like it's a spook of his.
So you
this
think
story.
so? In a way, he actually did not escape everything that he thought he escaped, mentally and morally.
I don't know about that. I
But
just
the
think
question is, if the story is actually being recalled by my reckoning, not by Alpha, but my Mademba,
Which I think that's really interesting.
was Alpha even aware of this versus Mademba, who was the one who was conceiving everybody as within a pre-existing story?
Right.
dude, what? That was Tim and Eric. Another moment.
Mind blowing. Yeah, no, I think that's.
But when
really-
Alpha and Mademba fuse bodies, does it matter? Also, like, are you still correct? Like, what is the difference at some point? Because they possess they possess one another.
they're more than brothers.
Yeah,
They're gay. Dude.
They're more than brothers.
they're ghost gay.
Yeah.
Ghost gay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fill you up.
That's the remake of Ghost.
Alpha is.
It's going to be called Ghost Gay.
It's a bummer because I'm going to have to use the Anna Nicole Smith meme again when we talk about this book.
Damn it! I wish it wasn't so relevant always.
I know. But I also think that, that whole passage that you read, Matt, when I first read it, I was a little bit like you said, like, all right, dude, I get it. Like, you don't have to be telling me exactly what's happening. But I also think that part of what Diop is doing in that passage is referring to the larger, not just the narrative, but the larger context of the book, where we have this well-known story about World War I and the way it went. And what he's doing is talking about another story that's hidden within that larger story, namely the story of the colonial soldiers that have been kind of ignored and not really talked about a lot. And so I think that it's both works within the narrative, but also as like a meta commentary on what the book is designed to do in terms of bringing out this kind of hidden history that a lot of people don't know about. And hearing you read it back again, that just sort of struck me.
Yeah, you can't forget that, like, this is a 2020 publication, and the implications of that need to be also, like, taken into consideration.
Yeah,
I also think that points to the racial elements at play and how just insightful that is overall. Is like this story is being brought up to us three white guys, and it's fresh. And it's fresh to like the rest of everyone else because it's 2020, and I just feel like it's an untold story, and it's good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I started talking and I forgot exactly what I was going to say, but I kept talking anyway.
No, but that's what it is, right? It's about like, for who are these stories hidden from, right? Because people lived this, right? Like,
That's what I was
there
trying to
were
say.
these soldiers who were in the war, and they didn't fucking forget it, and their families didn't fucking forget it.
It's old.
Yeah.
It's old.
It's old news.
But it's new to us.
It's
right?
new to us white boys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And that information can ignite, like they were saying, this is an old story and whatever, but like it can ignite, what is it? It can create it can turn an idea into an action.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, it can change potentially your viewpoint and therefore then your behavior at some point later for the good, I would assume.
Knock on wood.
God willing, God's truth.
I want to bring up Simenon again because I don't think that this is written in a way that's similar to Simenon at all.
Definitely
but I think definitely not. But in terms of just like bringing up very human emotions and human situations and the horrors of humanity while talking about social issues in a subtle way, I think in that way he's similar to Simenon. Like Simenon can talk about very personal horrors of particular characters in a certain setting, and I felt like this book was similar to that. It was like extremely personal. You felt you like really knew the characters, but the historical elements and the social elements are so apparent as well, but maybe like not overshadowed, but they're intertwined very specifically and intentionally and beautifully.
I think I think that's a good point in the sense that like reading this book and I watch a lot of reviews because it like I said, it's kind of a hype book right now, and one of the things that I really liked about it, and I mean this as a compliment to the book, there are a lot of ways to have really bad takes on this book. Even some of the Booker reviews or the stuff that they put on the Booker page when it was announced that it won the prize or whatever, it was like, this is a book about redressing, the issues of colonialism and like da 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 da. And it is sort of in the way that some of Simenon's books are about the political issues that Simenon talks about. But it's also not, right? Like, if you read that about this book, and then I feel like that would give you a very misleading picture about the experience of reading this book, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to read a Franz Fanon novel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And it's not that at all. But similarly, it would be an equally grievous mistake to do the Cliff reading, which is like, oh, it's just about a dude in war and sex and death. Right? It's equally not that. And so it invites a bunch of these bad simplistic takes.
Dude, it's not about
like ninja dodges out of all of them in this like really subtle way.
So it's not about like pussy craters and gun phalluses, no?
Right.
Okay, well, damn, dude, fuck.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's to me that was something that I really liked. It's like there's a lot of ways that you can be wrong about this book, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that basic reviewers can like it in dumb ways and still give it good reviews, but it can be better if you think about it in a better way.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I was
imagine
thinking?
talking about a book for more than 10 minutes in a video.
Yeah.
God, what a nightmare.
Clip it.
You know what I was thinking, and I think this applies a lot to various things, is the notion that like how to put this is abstract, and I don't have a fully coherent thought about it, but like
I love that for you.
That
me too.
That the truth is kind of fractal, and so particulars, if you get them right, still translate outward to encompass like the entirety. And so like there's a way to still access the truth about the human condition or some element of the world that, and I think this is only really true for like, really great works of art. But I mean, even again, like I'm going to give this book, I like this book a lot, but like I think it still accesses this kind of thing. It's like, if you have a general idea of the fractal shape, no matter where you approach it from, if you get that right, it feels right through time, something like that.
Well, and I think that's why that passage you read earlier, Matt, about translation is so central to this book, and it's one paragraph in a late chapter, a very short chapter. But I think it's so important, and it also makes me wonder about, like, just that line about, to translate is one of the only human activities in which one is required to lie about the details to convey the truth at large.
Right.
And I think that's sort of one of the reasons that I am not convinced. I don't know enough, in terms of literature to evaluate the style as a modernist. Is not. I understand that it has some similar concerns, and it's World War I and all that stuff, but it's also very postmodern in that sense, about the truth being fractal, and sort of like the best we can get is these sort of, lens shifted approximations, you know what I mean? That we can hope to sort of capture like some broader sense of it. So I don't know. In terms of the theming, it's not clear to me that this is a modernist text in the way that I've seen it talked about a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Once again, modernist and postmodernist is by my account. Like I get confused.
Well, and again, of course, like the other thing that makes me think about that is that I think about this book took me from Blanchot to Derrida, and that's kind of where my mind went with some of these passages. And of course, Derrida was someone who was deeply concerned with the concept of translation and the idea of translation. And he specifically wrote a lot of his work using French terms that were sort of untranslatable, that sort of only made sense in a verbal like way, like the way they sounded. He did a lot of like punt, like the word hauntology, which everybody knows right now because of Mark Fisher. The reason Derrida coined that term is because ontology and hauntology in French would be pronounced exactly the same.
Right.
And he thought that was really funny and like used it as a way to like make a point. But of course in English, it doesn't translate in precisely that way. Because we do pronounce the H where the French wouldn't. And so it sounds different.
Yeah.
So the quintessential archetypal statement here would be translation is a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a lie, like he says, to try to get at a truth.
Yeah. It's like a lie that you have to live with.
Yeah. It's like, in the song Liars by Kanye West on Donda, he goes
Anthony Fantano, come on the show.
He says let's be honest, we're all liars. Exactly. That's what they're talking about too.
How do you
I got
say
pulled
that in
over
French?
and I got priors. Yeah.
Don't make me talk about the story of you getting pulled over, man.
Yeah, chill. Let's not talk about that.
I want to talk about it bad.
No.
Patreon only.
Immaterial.
That's right.
Actually, that's double Patreon only.
That's triple Patreon only.
Triple Patreon only.
If you made it this far and want to ask, and you're a Patreon subscriber or supporter, then maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt's OnlyFans is telling his pullover story. You give him $100.
I'm uncomfortable.
Well,
Wow.
Wow, God.
Now.
Is there anything else you guys wanted to say or read?
Yeah,
I can't believe we're about to put these people in fucking houses.
I wanted to introduce
Sometimes
a new
it's just not cool.
Sometimes it just doesn't work.
I did want to introduce a new segment if you guys are okay.
Whoa,
on the
what?
spot.
New segment alert. Wee-oo.
My new segment, I don't have a theme song for it or anything. It's a new idea that I'm introducing to the boys right now. It's best Scrabble word of the book.
Oh.
Dude, I love that.
I love that as a segment.
You like that?
Yes. I was unaware that it was going to be one, so I didn't think about
Yeah,
that.
so reread the book real quick in the next 5 minutes.
Okay, so talk about the segment. Why is this a good segment while I find a word?
Well, Scrabble's fun, and if you want to win, you need more words that are good. It's fun because you get to read a book and like if a weird word pops up, that you're like, what is that word? Or like, that's a long word. You can bank it in your Scrabble vocabulary mind palace. So I think it's
your cave kingdom, if you were.
Yes.
One of my problems
Your
is already
kingdom.
that foreign words are obviously disallowed in English Scrabble,
Not
correct?
always. It depends. If they have widespread
not in common use.
in English, yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to look it up. You know?
All right, I have my answer.
Okay.
My answer, and Paul can go next.
Okay.
And I just looked in the official Scrabble dictionary. This is not a word, but this would be one. This would be one that I would add. And I'm thinking in terms of so you've got me spiraling because I actually play Scrabble a lot. I grew up with my grandmother playing Scrabble, and It's probably why I'm competitive now, partially.
Because of your grandma.
Yeah, I mean, she beat my ass so bad every time, and she was merciless. She didn't give a fuck.
Yeah. She's like, you lost,
She's
you
like,
lost.
You suck, you fucking idiot. Like, you're stupid.
My aunt is like that.
Yeah. My Scrabble word from this book would be dem, the soul eater word.
Dem.
Dem, and it's a good word because
I was gonna say that, by the way, not just cap. I was gonna say that
too. You can have it too, because it's a good Scrabble word because it's short. There's a lot of words that either end or begin with most of those letters, so you could stack it on another word and get a bunch of points. And D, I think D is 2 points in Scrabble, and I think M's are 3, which is pretty decent. So if you can get a D, E, double M down on like a double word score or triple word score or something, you're gonna get some points.
Wow, fuck! I just realized that even though I invented this segment, I did not think it through. So, and my word is probably like not great for Scrabble, but it's a good word to know. My word is transhumance, which I thought was just a good word in the book. And it means the action or practice of moving livestock from one grazing ground to another in a seasonal cycle.
I had to look that one up too. That's a great word.
It's
transhumance.
Yeah.
Is that how it's pronounced?
No, I have no idea. It sounds so close to transhumanism.
Yes.
I know.
Which I thought was like, again, that's one of the things about translation. I wonder how that would read in French, thinking again about Derrida.
Yeah.
I don't have one, guys. I'm sorry.
You said dem. You can have dem. This is the first time we did this.
Yeah, you can't spring this on me. I want to think about this so hard, and I can't.
I'm sorry
right
I sprung it. I thought it would be interesting to spring it, though.
I like it.
Yeah.
There's a language that Pendo Boss speaks, which is Fulfulde.
That's a good one.
That'd probably be nice as like a thing you knew.
F's are, I think, 4 points. So double F, that's good.
F-U-L
Yeah.
D-E.
That's a good word.
I feel like that would be a nice thing to know. You could lose some, oppressive letters there too if you were,
No, that's a good one. Dude, that's a good one.
Fulfulde. There we go.
Nice. So you guys like the segment?
I think we should keep it.
Dog, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, dude. That's such a good
Fun.
That's such a good one.
That's a great segment.
Sick.
Should we still do We Just Read a Book?
I think
Another
we
book?
probably should. We promised we were going to do it literally at the beginning of the show. Paul brought it up, so.
Well, we can have 2 segments. I mean,
Of course.
Yeah.
But we have occasionally not done the Sorting Hat one because it's fucking.
When did we not do it?
We did it. Oh, we did it. You know what? We did it for Mockinverse.
we didn't do it?
Me and Gabe didn't do it.
Yeah, that's a YouTube video. That's different.
It's
Go
different.
subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, please. Okay.
All right, let's give it a shot. I do. Yeah, it does. It doesn't feel great, but we have to do it.
Yeah.
So, and thankfully, there's only a few characters that I think are even plausible to talk about.
You know who doesn't like transhumans?
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling.
Oh fuck. Oh Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's really good. Okay.
All right. What characters are we cooking with, really?
Okay. I think we're cooking with. I can see basically 3, like arguably 4. Mademba.
Yeah.
Alpha. Captain Armand.
Armand makes your list.
I don't know. Well, who was your third?
I was gonna say the dad.
Okay. Yeah. Damn.
The
Maybe
dad?
there's more. Maybe there's more.
I was gonna say the dad and the mom, and then Alpha and
The
Mademba.
dad and Pendoba.
Yeah.
And shit. All right. Yeah, you're right. Okay. All right. Let's do it.
Like
So how many
Armand
total,
is
like
Armand
5?
is interesting, but he's
Is he just too
He-
obviously a Slytherin?
he's across the board. Like his assessment is so final. You know.
Yeah.
Final solution.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. later. Yeah.
All right. Well, so then,
Later,
what about
next war.
What about Fairy?
Vi-
What about Fari Tiam?
Armand is going to be in Vichy, France for sure, just eating it up.
Okay. The dad. We want to do the
The
dad.
dad.
We're
I think
just
he's
starting.
a Gryffindor.
The dad seems like a Chad.
Yeah, just like
I mean, that
wholesome
scene.
Gryffindor.
There's a scene where he stands up to the chief of his town and
Yeah, that's right.
lays him on his ass.
Gryffindor.
When the chief was like, "Oh, we all need to start growing peanuts because it's going to be more profitable," and he just fucking Ben Shapiro style wrecks.
You want to have peanuts? You want to introduce
well, you
peanuts
want
into
peanuts?
our
Well, if we all grow peanuts, then the price of peanuts will go down, and therefore we won't be making any money. And then I'll have to go to your shop that you own and buy goods from you, sir. So who's
Right.
really winning out in that arrangement?
It sounds like you, and therefore I do not follow for your scheme.
I think he's a Gryffindor.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. The dude doesn't care about repercussions.
Sad.
He's also-
He's definitely a sad Gryffindor, but he's a Gryffindor.
Well, he wasn't a sad Gryffindor even. Like, who knows what his, like, deal was prior to Pendoba.
True.
I mean, you know, say
had
what
3
you want
wives
about,
before.
Before
polygamy.
Pendoba, he was a stately old man Chad.
Right.
Yeah.
And he got
Silver
Pendoba
fox.
through being
Generous and sharing his wealth with
kind of
travelers.
counter to custom. Like,
Yes.
right? You know, like he talks about being able to practice the sacred art of hospitality.
Yes, dude.
That
He's
shit
like fucking Danny
is awesome.
Meyer.
Yeah, he's like review bra.
I think that makes him a Gryffindor.
Yeah, he's definitely a Gryffindor.
Yeah.
All right, what about the mom? What about Pendoba?
Shoot, Raven.
It's a tough one. I think she's a Hufflepuff, dude.
Yeah, but family.
But in a good way. In like she misses her family and she misses her lifestyle and that like she's very loyal to her family.
Yes, loyalty can extend to, yes, like I would say lifestyle and that being sort of a shorthand for culture.
For sure, definitely.
When you hear your family, Hufflepuff.
When you hear your family, our podcast.
Our podcast.
Our unofficial 1 to 2 times mentioned slogan.
Yeah. Bottomless breadsticks for your ears.
Because our episodes are long. That's why.
Yeah, they're so long. This one too.
Yeah, this is gonna be like our 3rd longest episode.
Whatever.
I did not
fuck.
expect that at all.
No, me either.
One of our most short books we've ever read.
We were literally debating if it was a novella or not, and like
Yeah.
3 hours later.
I was thinking earlier when you said long story short, we should make a new term that's just novel novella.
Short story long.
Long episode long.
Yeah. Short story long.
Okay. All right. Now we're down to the big 2. Then.
Meat and potatoes.
The meat and potatoes, which is a duality.
Yes.
Let's do. I guess let's do Mademba.
All right. Mademba is also, I feel, shoot.
I think
He's got some
I
Raven.
think he's pretty clearly a Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw.
Yeah, he like
Oh, yeah,
memorized
he's, like,
the
pretty
Quran.
smart,
He like, wants to go
yeah.
to France to get to like learn at French colleges, and
But he's also
he has
very
these-
brave
these
for wanting to
ambitions.
join the war.
That's true. He does have a lot of.
But he's
pride and
not-
bravery.
But his bravery extends not through the mode of sacrifice, but through the mode of education.
Right.
Like he
Yeah.
wants to join the war in order to expand experience,
It's
and that makes him
yes,
Ravenclaw.
exactly, dude.
And also,
That's what it is.
I would say when he's on his deathbed, when his guts are out of his body, he's very well spoken.
Yeah. Okay.
That was actually one of-
that was fucking Gryffindor, dude. He was a Chad when he was dying.
He was a Chad, but he was so well spoken. I was like, this is a Ravenclaw type.
He sounds kind of like a
here.
pussy bitch when he was.
No, he doesn't. Though. Well, he does after like 3 hours of his guts hanging out of his
Kill
fucking
me?
stomach. But at the
No,
beginning,
he's like-
but at the beginning, he's like.
I'm joking.
At the beginning, he's Chad though. He's looks his friend in the eye and like, dude, I love you, man. I need you to kill me right now.
You gotta cut my throat
yeah,
open.
which
Yeah.
is pretty G.
Yeah.
But I still
That's-
think,
dude,
yeah,
that's
Gryffindor or Ravenclaw for his just fundamentals, his
Yeah.
motivations.
Yeah, I agree. Okay,
Yeah, I agree.
the big one, Alpha.
It's
Slytherin.
a tough one.
Ooh, Slytherin.
I'm leaning towards
He's a
Slytherin
demon
as well.
He's
I
the
know,
demon
I
at the
kn-
end.
I know, but that's
But that's
okay,
not
dude, we have
him.
to
That's someone
avoid
possesses him after
caricature
he
of
was
Slytherin
sorted
is
into
just
the house.
bad.
I don't think it is. I think actually because of the fact that Alpha is not a bad person necessarily, it makes it not a caricature, but I think he still is.
That's true.
He's some
He
total is a
he literally says,
a-
"I only think for myself" like 5 times.
he is a
Yeah.
cause of violence and he's self-centered.
Or is he? Hear me out. Bad Gryffindor, where he's like,
Okay.
you know, I'm thinking for myself. I'm trying to he is trying to do the right thing in his own weird, perverse way. He thinks
Sure.
of himself as trying to pursue doing the right thing.
Yeah, but so does Voldemort.
Does he?
A lot of bad
though?
people in
Does
general,
Voldemort
like-
think that.
A lot of bad people in general, yeah.
But
that's
does
true.
Voldemort think that?
Well, Voldemort is also not the epitome of Slytherin.
Does any Slytherin think that?
Probably.
What? That I'm doing the right thing,
Well,
but
no. Like, I feel like a lot of Slytherin are sort of pretty explicit about like, this is for me. This is for my own advantage. Which he does say, also though. I only think
Yeah.
about myself and for myself.
I mean, he
that's
clearly states
belied
that,
by
which
his
is, like, the
all other
most-
experiences, his other behaviors.
I don't know. I don't think he really gives any Gryffindor-like behaviors in the whole book.
We probably should have mentioned it, but I think this is one of the ironies in the book too, is that for bringing home Mademba's body, he wins a medal for bravery,
yeah.
Yeah.
which is
He gets like 3 like Croix de Guerre.
yeah, exactly,
medals.
which is like totally perverse and ironic because it was a cowardly act.
I mean, were you guys not thinking about the Forrest Gump scene with Bubba and Forrest brings Bubba's body back?
Oh,
Because I totally was.
I wasn't until just now, but it makes total sense.
Well, yeah, where Forrest is like running bodies back, and he gets the Medal of Honor from Nixon or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, final answer.
Yeah,
Slithy.
he's a Slithy.
He's a Slithy.
I'm
I think he's
sticking with bad Gryffindor.
Or I'm gonna go with like potentially
Good Slithy.
I can't even say good Slithy because he rapes someone, even though
Yeah,
he's possessed.
he's definitely not. Yeah,
But it's like
He literally
I can't
calls
even
himself a
say good
Mamba.
Slithy.
yeah, he does. Yeah.
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 Or is he bad Hufflepuff? He's loyal to his friend. He tries to avenge his death.
No, you can't. You can't suckle in all friendship into Hufflepuff.
Suckle.
No, that's true. You're right.
You can't.
Someone's been talking about the female body too much reading this book.
I'm horny. I'm horny.
The trench.
Paul's gonna go jerk off to old World War I pictures.
Yeah, just mud
Trenches.
holes.
Yo, dude. Just Google trench foot pics.
That works because I have a foot fetish. It's all coming full circle.
Nice. I'm so glad.
Oh yeah.
Circle like a butthole.
Oh, trench foot.
Oh God. Have you guys ever seen a cannon?
Oh my god.
Cannon?
What?
All right. Well, it's. I think it's score time. Yeah.
It's score time.
I thankfully don't have to go first because this is
Did
my
not.
pick. Ooh,
Did not first.
Matt has to go first.
It's fine with me.
Fine, I'll go
I'm
first.
not
You
mad.
want me to go
I'm
first?
not mad, dude. You're mad.
I'm not even met. No, I'm fine. It's a
Fine,
3.6.
I'm gonna go first. Oh,
What'd you say?
I said a 3.6.
3.6.
Yeah.
nice.
All right.
3.6
Paul.
even.
I'm going a 420.
420.
Woo!
That's fucking sick.
Yeah, this is I really like this book.
Yeah.
I don't agree, but it's such a cool number.
This book deserved a fucking cool number.
4.269.
Yes.
I'm in between. Yeah, I'm in between. I'm like a 3.93.
Nice.
Wait, so I really like this book. I think that it was very fucking good, and it definitely I didn't read any of the other nominees for the International Booker Prize,
Nah.
but I mean, I'm not mad that this won because I think it was really good.
Well, I mean, we didn't really do closing statements.
Yeah,
But my closing
true.
statement would
we
be
also
like,
spat
Do
out
we
our stupid
do?
scores like dum-dums.
we usually do.
We usually do a little bit of a
Yeah.
justification, like why did we give it this score?
I mean, I really like the writing style a lot. We didn't talk about this on the podcast yet, but I listened to half this book basically on audiobook, and it was really fucking awesome. I actually would recommend doing that. This is like the first book I've recommended. I think I've recommended like listening to the audiobook and not reading it. It was a great experience. I forget who the guy's name was, but
Shout out.
He read it perfectly, and he had the accent. But I also think that it's a good coming of age type book for a younger adolescent in some ways. But not only that, I think it has a lot to offer anybody. And I also think it's the best book we've read on the podcast past 2000 for sure.
No question.
No
Yeah,
question.
easily,
like
easily.
top of the ranks for
Yeah.
sure.
This is the,
And we've
this
only
is,
read
this
like
is the
four,
best
but-
modern book we've read on the show for like
Yeah.
by quite
Oh, The Factory, by the way, is the other one we didn't mention.
Oh, okay.
Oh shit! Yeah, The Factory. That book was good too.
That
This
was
is still
good, but
better.
I think
This is better, though.
better. I want to look at your scores for the Factory. Maybe it's not. better
I'm
according
looking
to
at. I was looking at the scores right now actually because I was like,
What are they? Because I just forget what I rated other
So
shit.
the Factory. Matt, you did not like it apparently. You gave it.
I didn't.
2.78.
Okay.
Whoa.
Paul, you gave it a 3.7654.
2.78 also, by the way, not liking it.
Yeah,
just for the
yeah,
record.
Yeah. Dude, we take our numbers seriously here.
2.5
Like,
is
2.5 is average.
neutral.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
neutral.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
we need
No,
to keep
you're
that
right.
in mind.
You're right.
I mean, but like to be real though, it's
I gave it a 3.4.
generally speaking, it's a kind of a low score to be under the 3 mark.
Well, but I mean, but this is the thing, right? Like, we know our taste. We try to pick books we think we're gonna like. If we just grab random shit off the shelf, we'd be handing out a lot of zeros and ones.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know.
3.6, I think, is a very respectful score to a book that I think through the podcast, if you've listened at all, I have a lot to say about as well, and think was just in general worth your time.
Yeah, 100%. Read it.
But the four, man, the 4 is sacred to me almost. It's like you really got to fucking crack some other thing with
The
me.
4 is tough. I mean, we probably should talk about at the beginning of each show going forward. No one's listening anymore, so I'm just going to talk about this now.
Right.
We should probably up front in each show talk about like our scoring system. Like you know, I think we all sort of agreed at the beginning of the show, like 5 is life changing, right? Like 5 is there's like a before and after this book, right?
The Mountain
Like,
Lion was a 5 for
yeah.
us. So that's
and
like
I stand by that. We can revisit it. That's my favorite book. But 5 is like there's before I read this book and after I read this book. Like, you know what I mean? In your own life.
Yeah.
To me, I think the difference.
And 4 is like one of the best books I've ever read. Like probably.
No,
would,
I mean,
like
for me,
crack
it's
your
like
top 50
it's
or
like
something.
above
Yes.
4.4 or 4.5 that it comes into play.
I hear that.
But like
I hear
above
that.
4, like I'm more lenient on above 4s.
Yeah, I hear that. Which is why I was just looking back at the scores. I need to revisit my score last week for correction. I don't think that was a 4+, but I give it over 4.
I think I need
Just
to too
barely,
because I think that's more of like a
defense.
2.5 for me. I want to change it.
I mean,
do-
you're right though. Like
We'll do an
time
episode where we revisit our scores.
like time affects things either negatively or positively too, right?
And just
you know?
new experiences, having read more books and etc.
Right. Your own personal experiences could make you more amenable or less, and then what you read, yeah. Both.
Yeah. Like
It's
after I watched The Dark Knight, my life was changed.
After I watched Toy Story, I was like, Jesus Christ, what's going on?
There's a before and after.
Yeah.
That is a 5-bagger for sure. Toy Story.
New Matt.
All right, everybody.
New
Thanks
Matt.
for listening. If you're
Yeah.
still here, you're an absolute
not
fucking
here.
legend.
Preach.
Preach. Fucking preach.
Fucking preached.
Love y'all.
Thank you.
Subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, Twitter.